Amber's voice cut through the airport chaos like a knife. "Rachel, grab my suitcase. My arms hurt." I barely glanced at her before replying. "No, Amber, you can carry it yourself." She blinked, stunned, like the thought of me refusing had never even crossed her mind. "Excuse me?" she snapped, her voice sharp enough to turn heads. I said no. My voice was calm, too calm. And that's when it happened. Before I could react, her hand flew through the air and her palm struck my cheek. The sound echoed, conversation stopped, dozens of strangers turned to stare. I stood there, frozen, the sting spread across my skin, hot and humiliating. My heart pounded, not just from the slap, but from the ugly truth settling in my bones. I turned to my parents, expecting, hoping, they'd say something, do something. Instead, my mom let out an exasperated sigh. "Rachel, stop making a scene." My dad shook his head. "You know your sister's been through a lot, don't be dramatic." Amber didn't say a word, she just rubbed her wrist like she was the one who got hurt. And I realized then, right there in the middle of the airport, with my cheek still burning, that I didn't belong, not to them, not in this family. They never saw me, they never had. But what they didn't know, this entire trip, the plane tickets, the hotel, the excursions, I paid for all of it. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. Without a word, I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, and opened my booking app. One by one, I canceled everything. Their flights, their hotel reservations, their dream vacation, all gone with a few taps of my finger. Then, as they kept scolding me, completely unaware of what I'd just done, I took a slow step back, then another. No yelling, no dramatic speech. Just silence, and the sound of my footsteps as I walked away, toward freedom. It had been building for years, the kind of anger that simmers beneath the surface, waiting for a crack to spill over. I opened the booking app, the one where I'd planned the entire trip. I felt a cold, detached calm as I tapped on each reservation. Cancel. 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 Flights, hotels, tours, all of it, gone in a few seconds. And they still had no clue. I looked up. My parents were bickering about where to get lunch before the flight, and Amber was busy, as always, perfecting her makeup in a compact mirror. I didn't say a word. I took a deep breath, turned, and walked away. No one even noticed. My steps were slow, deliberate, but steady as I passed through the airport, past the gates, and out the doors. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't look back. Just the silence, and the sound of my own footsteps carrying me towards something I hadn't felt in so long. Peace. Outside, I called a ride, not home, but to a different terminal. While canceling their trip, I'd already booked my own flight to Maui. Not the bustling, tourist-filled part of the island, but the quiet, peaceful side I'd always dreamed of but never had the chance to experience. This time, it was just for me. The car ride to the gate was calm, quiet. And then my phone started buzzing. First, Mom, then Dad, then Amber. I didn't answer. I blocked all three of them. For the first time in my life, I chose me. The flight to Maui was serene. No drama, no tension, just the low hum of the plane and the flight attendant's soft voice offering snacks. I glanced out the window, watching as we flew over the ocean. The sun was setting, and the clouds looked like pink cotton candy, floating peacefully across the sky. For the first time in years, I felt free. When I landed, I grabbed my small suitcase, the only one I'd packed for myself, and walked out into the warm evening air. A breeze kissed my face, and I smiled. I hadn't even realized how tight my chest had been until that moment. At the hotel, the front desk clerk greeted me with a flower lei and a warm smile. "Welcome to Maui," she said. I whispered back, "Thank you, I really needed this." My room had a view of the beach. I opened the balcony door, stepping out to the sounds of the waves gently crashing and the stars beginning to twinkle above. I stood there for a long time, just breathing. No one was yelling at me, no one was making me feel small. I was alone, and it felt like the most freedom I'd ever had. The next morning, I ordered room service, pancakes, fresh fruit, and the best coffee I'd ever tasted. I sat by the window and watched the sun rise over the water. I didn't check my phone, I didn't wonder what my family was doing. They weren't my problem anymore. Later, I went for a walk along the shore. the sand cool beneath my feet. I joined a snorkeling tour, something I'd always secretly wanted to try. The guide was funny, the group was kind. And I laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in years, I felt like myself again. That night, I posted a photo on social media. Just me, standing on the beach, smiling, with the waves behind me. No caption, just peace. But I knew they'd see it. The next morning, I turned my phone back on for just a moment. It exploded. Over 50 missed calls, dozens of angry texts, and a few long messages filled with guilt trips. From Mom, "I can't believe you did this to your family, we're stranded at the airport, how could you be so selfish?" From Dad, "Grow up, Rachel, this isn't how we solve problems in a family." From Amber, "You are dead to me, you ruined everything, I hope you're happy, loser." I read them, calm and steady. Then I opened Instagram. Amber had posted a story, a blurry photo of her sitting in an airport chair, pouting, with the caption, "When your psycho sister ruins your dream vacation." I laughed out loud. Some people agreed with her, but others, they asked, "Wait, didn't she pay for the trip?" I closed the app and tossed my phone onto the hotel bed. That part of my life, it didn't matter anymore. Let them yell, let them try to make me feel guilty. I was done being their doormat. Instead of fighting, I chose me. I changed into my swimsuit and headed down to the beach, feeling the warm sand between my toes and the salt in the air. The sound of the waves was soothing, an escape from everything I'd left behind. The afternoon was mine. I swam in the clear water, read under the shade of a palm tree, and sipped iced tea as I let the ocean's rhythm calm my mind. Later, I treated myself to a massage at the spa. The therapist pressed into my shoulders and said, "You've got a lot of tension here." I smiled softly. Not for long. That evening, I had dinner by myself at a quiet outdoor restaurant. The soft music, the golden lights, and the perfect ocean breeze created an atmosphere of serenity I had never known. Halfway through my meal, I paused and looked around. I didn't miss them. Not even a little. For the first time in what felt like forever, I finally felt like me, the person I had forgotten while bending over backwards for everyone else. The next morning, I sat on the balcony with my coffee, watching the sun rise over the ocean. I couldn't help but think about everything that had happened, the slap, the silence, how they'd turned on me like I was the problem. But instead of feeling broken, I felt stronger, I felt free. I opened my laptop, fingers hovering over the keys. This time, I was writing for myself. I wrote about everything, the years of being invisible, the little jabs, the silent sacrifice. Then I posted it on a blog I'd set up months ago but never had the courage to use. I titled it simply, "The Day I Chose Myself." A few hours later, I checked it again. Dozens of readers, hundreds, then thousands. The comments poured in. This hit me hard. I've been the invisible one too. You're so brave. Thank you for sharing this. You didn't just cancel a trip, you set yourself free. By the end of the day, it had gone viral. A popular travel page reposted it with the caption, "Sometimes peace starts with a plane ticket and a boundary." Suddenly, strangers were reaching out, saying I inspired them to leave toxic relationships or set their own boundaries for the first time. In that moment, on that balcony, I realized something. My story mattered. I mattered. I wasn't just a background character in someone else's life anymore. A few days later, while hiking through a peaceful trail, I turned my phone on to check my blog comments. Bad idea. Amber had exploded online, trying to twist the story. My sister abandoned us at the airport and made us look like fools. She's lying about everything. She's jealous of me, always has been. She posted a fake screenshot of a flight ticket she supposedly paid for, except the date was wrong, and she misspelled her own name. People weren't buying it. The comments were brutal. "Girl, just say you got cut off. Your sister paid for the trip and you slapped her. No sympathy here. This is why boundaries are necessary." Amber's attempt to play the victim had backfired spectacularly. I found out later she'd tried to rebook the trip using my name, thinking she could still access my credit card, but I'd already canceled it, closed all the shared accounts, and locked everything down. When she tried to use it at a restaurant with her friends, the card was declined 3 times. The internet didn't miss that, either. Someone posted it. Meanwhile, back in Maui, I was eating fresh mangoes, walking on black sand beaches, and sleeping soundly for the first time in years. And my blog traffic kept growing. A few companies reached out, asking if I'd like to write more stories or even become a travel partner. It made me pause. Maybe this wasn't just a vacation, maybe it was a new beginning. I extended my stay in Maui, not because I was running from my old life, but because I was building a new one, on my own terms. A few weeks later, as I sat at a beach cafe, I reread a message from a travel company. It read, "We love your writing. Would you be interested in partnering with us to share more solo travel stories?" I stared at the screen, unable to process it. Me, the girl who had always been quiet, always told to sit down, be silent, and just let things go. Now, people wanted to hear what I had to say. I said yes. Over the next few weeks, I kept writing, sharing my stories, about being the overlooked child, about finding my voice, about doing things on my own terms. My little blog turned into something bigger than I could have imagined. People shared their stories with me, too. Some told me they booked their first solo trip, others had stood up to people who'd hurt them for years, some simply wrote, "Thank you for making me feel seen." I cried as I read them. Happy tears. By the time I was ready to leave Maui, I wasn't the same person who had been slapped in the airport. I was stronger, lighter, quiet on the outside, maybe, but loud with confidence on the inside. I even started thinking about turning my blog into a full-time job, maybe even writing a book one day. And the best part? I didn't feel guilty anymore. Not about saying no. Not about walking away. Not about leaving behind people who never really saw me. One evening, as I sat on the balcony again, watching the sun dip behind the ocean, my laptop was open, but I wasn't writing, I was simply breathing, enjoying the calm. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything to anyone. That's when the message came in. Not from a stranger. Not from a brand.